Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy 4th of July weekend. Hopefully everybody had a very nice one. Unfortunately, the weekend's almost over. I know it's been a while. I think my last video was WrestleMania. I do apologize for the long delay. I believe I've mentioned this in WrestleMania. I'm not quite sure. Usually what keeps me away from doing these podcasts is work. And my boss left at the end of March, and they fired the controller right behind. Well, I'm sorry, they fired the. Well, my boss said he was leaving. Then they fired the controller because they wanted him out. So they used my boss leaving as an excuse to get rid of him. And then my boss left. And it was months before we hired somebody, so everything was really on my shoulders to figure out where everybody left off on stuff. I mean, I knew where my director left off, but the controller, he kind of kept things close to the vest. So, trying to figure out why he did certain things, it was just a lot. So it was just a lot of late nights, and trying to squeeze in a podcast, just wasn't in the cards. We have hired somebody. She started almost a month ago. July 10th will be a month that she's been there, and I can't stand her. I'm looking to fucking leave that new job. I've only been at that job a little over a year, and I'm looking to leave because, I tried to give it time, but she came in way too hot, clearly trying to flex her muscles. And, the way she operates is not the way I operate. And listen, it's her department. She can run it any way she pleases. Doesn't mean that, we who work in that department have to accept it. I don't accept it, and I'm going to leave. And I have said one of the worst things you can do in life is work in a place that you are not happy. And I said I was not going to do that again. When I worked at the construction company, towards the end, I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I left. I enjoyed working where I was working now until, he left. And we were very nervous about the type of person that he came in because we knew they weren't crazy about the way he ran the department. And he didn't run it bad. I'll admit, he was probably a little bit too lax, but, it wasn't chaos. Work got done, deadlines were met, but I think they wanted him to run a much tighter ship, mainly because we had one person in the department who had a lot of friction with other people. And I think they filtered this new person in, and, I think that's why she came in the way she did. Not saying she was really like that, but I think she was just a little bit more extra because of what they told her. And that doesn't work for me. I don't need you looking over my shoulder. I'm not working on the threats of being written up. If you don't do this, do that. You know what? Fuck you. So I am going to be looking for a new job. But as I said before, I really do enjoy doing this podcast, and I am going to make a conscious effort to pump out more content, pump out more videos, and not have these long delays. I have to develop a schedule. I said I haven't done that yet. Well, I'll do 2 a week, 1 a week, maybe 1 every other week, to figure out how we're going to do this. And again, I appreciate those who do listen, who have subscribed already. I apologize for the delay, and I will try to keep those delays to a minimum. But with that getting said, we're going into Money in the Bank. I missed doing a podcast for Backlash, which I wasn't too upset about because we all knew nothing was really going to change at Backlash. We knew Cody, Bailey, we knew these guys weren't going to be losing their titles anytime soon. So that was sort of a throwaway pay-per-view. I wanted to, PLE rather, I wanted to do one on King of the Ring, but again, missed the timing. Didn't work out, but there is so much going on right now in WWE and AEW. AEW all for the wrong reasons, but for WWE, especially SmackDown, it's just firing all cylinders right now with the new Bloodline. And I'm going to do a separate video on that because there's a lot there. There is a lot to unpack in this new Bloodline. I did feel that they made a few missteps with them, but overall, I mean, the difference between Roman's bloodline and Solo is like Solo has to kill. Like, these guys are killers. They look intimidating. Like, you don't want to mess with these guys. But like I said, I'm going to do a much more deep dive into that because I think with this new bloodline, you have completely flipped the script. And first we were under the impression we were going to get Roman versus The Rock. The way this is trending, I don't think we're ever going to get that match. I don't know if we're going to get Rock and Cody at some point. I don't know if they're going to make this new bloodline go a whole year. or just kind of cut it off at the legs now, because I think there's still some. I mean, come on, the Bloodline thing has been going on for like 4 years now. I mean, that is an extraordinary amount of time for one storyline surrounded by around like one faction. That is amazing. Credit, it started under Vince and it carried now into officially the Triple H era. And it's amazing what's being done with that storyline. The way they keep refreshing it and adding new components to it. It's amazing. But like I said, I want to get deep into that, into another one. I want to stick with this one, Money in the Bank, as a show. It's going to start several hours from now. So I'm going to start with the Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins World Heavyweight Championship match, because I've already seen a lot of comments online that it's expected that Seth is going to win, because Gunther versus Damian Priest is not an interesting main event. And in a way, I don't disagree with that. But I don't see Triple H, and hopefully you guys don't hear a lot of humming noise. That's the other air conditioner. See, I record upstairs, and the central air doesn't really reach up here, so I have 2 window units, one in this room and one in the other room across. I try to do that whole cross ventilation thing. I turned off the one in here because it was too loud in the background for this. So I can still hear the humming of the other one, so I'm hoping it doesn't carry over into the video. If it does, I apologize, but that's what that humming noise is. But it's greatly reduced compared to what was before, because I did a quick test. I'm like, okay, I have to turn off the air conditioner, so hopefully it doesn't burn up in here too quick, because it gets hot up here pretty quick. But I don't see Triple H, at least right now. You just got this title a year ago. I don't see Triple H wanting to play hot potato yet with this title. If anything, you can always insert Seth Rollins into the match. Granted, the stipulation is that if Damian wins, Seth can't compete for the championship. Could they do a thing with Edge back in the day where no. Oh, similar to what Edge did, because Edge should do that in Money in the Bank. Remember at the Elimination Chamber, Edge lost his title, but then he took Kofi's spot, went into the other Elimination Chamber and won the championship there. You could do something where Seth takes out one of the contenders in Money in the Bank, wins Money in the Bank, and you could do something like that. And I get people aren't quite sure how to take Damian Priest, because I've even said when Damian Priest first got called up to the main roster, I wasn't sure how he was going to fit in. Like, he looked a little lost when he first came up, but the Judgment Day has really helped him. And yeah, maybe he doesn't have an identity yet. And yes, his mic skills are not great. You know, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Ronda Rousey on the mic. But if you want to establish him as a top guy, if you want to establish him as a champion and not a transitional champion, he needs to beat Seth Rollins. And I feel like the company has to get away from always putting the belt back on that reliable guy when you think things aren't going right. You know, how many times, you know, the title always went back to Edge when they needed a person, with the Kurt Angle needed a person. You know, I think if you want to do something, you have whoever's going to win Money in the Bank cash in and take the title off of Damian, maybe that way. But I think Damian needs to win this match. He needs to beat Seth Rollins. And there's still time between now and SummerSlam for you to get the title off of him, because you have Money in the Bank. That's your out if you really feel that Gunther and Damian is not a main event, because they're technically both heels. Okay? Whoever has the Money in the Bank can say, you know what, I'm going to cash it in and make it a triple threat. You can always do that. So you have an out. I would be disappointed if Seth wins, because I'm not tired of Seth. Like, I like Seth. Well, I like how he continues to reinvent himself. But I just don't think Seth needs to be the champion. I don't think Seth needs to be that person that you constantly put the belt on when you need that person, because you're going to get tired of that person. And I'm not tired of Seth, but I'm tired of Seth as champion. We had a whole year of him being champion. He doesn't need to be champion again. Unless you want to use him as a transitional champion. But I just think if there's certain guys that you want to build up and you want them to be taken seriously, these are the type of matches they have to win. And this is a credible person. Not to say that Jey Uso wasn't, but Jey Uso is not Seth Rollins. And if you want Damian to be able to stand and hold 2 feet, or to be looked at as a true champion, or have somewhat of a meaningful reign, because I think that's the other thing. This championship is, a year old, almost a year and a half old. I mean, do you really want to start playing hot potato with it again? Like, you really want to treat it with respect. I'm not saying Damian needs to hold it for a year or 2 years, but Damian won it at Money in the Bank, and that was April. We're July. May, June, July. It's 3 months, 90 days. That's it? A 90-day championship? I mean, at least 6 or 7 months for a person that you want to look legit, Like, let's say you put it on Bronson Reed. I can understand, okay, you gave Bronson Reed 2 months. You know what? Fine. You kind of wanted to test the waters with him. Okay, fine. But the fact that to me, the meaning of Money in the Bank is that you have confidence this person can be a champion and hold the title. So you had Damian Priest win Money in the Bank because you felt he was ready for that next step. Whereas, okay, Money in the Bank has passed. Let's see if Bronson Reed can do it. Let's, give him 60, 90 days. Let's see. I can understand you taking the title off of that person pretty quickly. But with this person, I think, no. Now, I don't know if he'll get cashed in on, but for me, Damian needs to win this match. I want Damian to win the match, and I'm picking Damian to win this match. Seth, at this point in his career, doesn't need any more title reigns. He doesn't. Seth is a legend. And you might say, well, but he's not quite there. He is, because Seth has put the company on his back and carried it. He has been that workhorse. He has been that guy that puts his own quality of life to the side, because when he's hurt, he still goes and he does it. He's a legend. He has the respect. He helped change the business. He did, because, this is somewhat known as the reality era. And Seth is a big, integral part. And Roman is a big, integral part in this. And Seth, like Triple H, like Chris Jericho, like The Undertaker, very good at reinventing themselves. And to me, if you have that quality, you're a legend. And it's like Becky Lynch. Becky doesn't need to be the champion. And I was pissed when Rhea had to drop the title. They put the title on Becky. Now, okay, you gave it to Liv quickly, and I guess you want to make it more meaningful. I guess you could have. I guess in that realm, it did make sense. But I was a little annoyed. I'm like, why do we need to go back to Becky again? Becky just had it. Becky doesn't need to be the champion right now. And that's how I viewed it. And that's how I view Seth. He doesn't need to be the champion right now. Same thing with Charlotte. We were getting tired of seeing Charlotte, and we know what they're doing. They're trying to get her up to the numbers of her dad and maybe even past her dad. But when Charlotte comes back from her knee injury, she doesn't need to be the champion again right away. She doesn't. Same thing, how many times was Cena champion? We didn't need to keep Cena as champion. And now he only had one title reign that was fairly significant. That was over 200 days. If you look at the rest of his reigns, maybe it was 30 days, 80 days, 60, 70, 20, it fluctuated. But, I feel, and the way Triple H has run things, I feel like he doesn't want to play hot potato with the titles. And maybe at minimum, these guys get... Let me change that. If you feel that this is a strong person to hold the title, at best, they should get a 6-month reign. For somebody that you think is there, but you want to test it, but your opportunities like Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, and Money in the Bank have passed, okay, let's give this person at best 60 to 90 days, and let's see how they do. If they do, let's keep running with it. Because I don't think the intention for Roman was to be champion for this long. But as he developed and crafted and shaped his character more and more, I think they're like, let's keep fucking running with this. And it ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. So for me, Damian Priest needs to win this match, and I hope Damian Priest wins the match. Sami Zayn and Bron Breakker, you know, Sami Zayn's reign has been a bit lackluster. I know a lot of people are upset that Chad Gable did not win. I was very upset that Chad didn't win. But, you know, we've always heard this. It's better when the babyface chases, but then when they get the championship, it's a little boring. And to me, Bron Breakker's going to win this match. Again, you tried to establish Bron Breakker. Right now, he's in the mid-card. Who's one of the top mid-carders right now? Sami Zayn. So at this level, it's right for you to beat Sami. And it's not time for Bron Breakker to lose. I don't think he's lost yet on the main roster. I don't think so. And this is not, at least by pinfall. And this is not the time for him. And this is how you help other people. You're building up this freak. And now when the next person comes along and beats him, very, very meaningful. Because now, in a way, it was meaningful for Sami to defeat Gunther. But now, even though Gunther lost, he's in a strong position now to move on to something else. So that loss that Gunther had doesn't hurt him. And the loss that I'm hoping that Sami takes today won't hurt him. Because I've said that Sami is above the IC title now. Sami should be competing for one of the world titles. And I think Bron needs to take this from Sami Zayn. And Bron probably doesn't need to pass Gunther's title reign. But again, Bron needs to have a substantial, dominating title run. And that means more than 90 days. Let him win it now. Maybe he loses at WrestleMania. Maybe he'll lose it at the Royal Rumble. That's fine. He wins it in July, August, September, October, November, December, January. January is 6 months. Or he can lose it at WrestleMania, which will still be under the year window. That's fine. Again, if you were trying to look at what they do with the women tag team titles. Those titles have no meanings because they continually play hot potato. Because I think they're trying to find that team that can give it that credibility. And I thought they had a pretty good team with Bianca Belair and Jay Carlin. Because look at them. Who's going to beat these muscular, intimidating, athletic, strong women? Perfect. You could have given it to Zoe Starks and Shayna Baszler. Make them two badasses that you don't want to get in the ring because you're going to get hurt. They haven't done that. So stop playing hot potato if you want to establish and keep something as credible. I'm not saying once in a blue moon you can do that, but I just think right now, the quality that Triple H is pumping out, I think playing hot potato with the titles is wrong. And to me, if you're not going to give those women tag team titles a serious reign, get rid of them because nobody seems to care about them. But people care about the Intercontinental title, and Gunther made it because then you wanted to see Gunther lose. You're holding your breath. Is he going to lose? And you can do the same thing with Bron Breakker. Sami gets nothing out of winning this match. Bron gets everything. Sami gets nothing if he wins this match. There was no point for Sami to win this match. And I'm going with Bron Breakker on this one. The 6-man tag team match, listen, it's very clear. If you want to establish this new bloodline, it's very clear. Very clear. Solo and his team need to win. And Solo needs to win by pitting Cody Rhodes because I think everybody thought we were going to get Rock versus Cody at SummerSlam. In the words of LA Knight, nada. We're getting Solo versus Cody at SummerSlam. Does that mean Solo wins? That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Because if you really want to drive home the point that Solo made last night on SmackDown, you should probably put the title. Now, you might say, hey, you just said don't play hot potato with the title. I don't think Cody was ever meant to have a year title reign. And Cody is in a position that, if he loses the title, it's not a big deal. It depends on where they're going to go with the storyline with the Bloodline. And I don't want to get into it here because I want to keep it a separate conversation. And I'll most likely do it after Money in the Bank. I'm sorry, I'll definitely do it before SummerSlam. Because it's tough. And I'm sure Triple H and them might be going back and forth like, okay, let's do Solo and let's do Cody at SummerSlam. But the question is, do we take the title off of Cody? Put it on Solo. And then eventually when Roman comes back, are you now going to take the title and the title of Tribal Chief? Or let's just keep it over who runs the family and Solo doesn't need that? Or does Roman come back and cost Solo the title? Which I think that cheapens it. I don't think you need to do that. But that's a tough one. There's no doubt in my mind, I'll be very surprised if the Bloodline does not win tonight. They need to win tonight. You need to establish these guys as killers, and they need to win. Doesn't hurt Randy, doesn't hurt Kevin, because Kevin did that great promo. He's been fighting the Bloodline for the better part of 4 years. It can keep going. Because you thought you cut the head off, but then a new one grew in Solo. And maybe Solo and Kevin can have a match at WrestleMania next year. I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The way that WWE, the way that Triple H is running this, there are so many different avenues you could go that all make sense. And that's the excitement that is generated because it's like they could go this way, they could go that way. Where does The Rock fit in? How does Roman fit in? Do we need this match anymore? That's what's so great about this. And a testament to how great they've run some of these storylines. It doesn't hurt Kevin, it doesn't hurt Randy, and it doesn't hurt Cody that they lose. But Cody has to take the pinfall. Solo needs to pin him. And that sets you up for SummerSlam. Solo versus Cody. The question is, if we get there, do you take the title off of Cody so quickly? And in this instance, I will be okay with the hot potato. Because in this instance, it makes sense for Solo to take the title. It does. This situation, I would be okay with the hot potato. I would be. Roman just had that long title reign. You just had Cody. But come on, is Cody's title reign anything exciting? No. Now, again, that shouldn't mean that he could play hot potato with the title. But I do think, storyline-wise, it kind of calls for it if it happens. If it doesn't happen, if Cody and them face each other at SummerSlam and Cody holds the title, I don't know. Because it kind of helps Solo's case. I beat Cody. I protected our legacy. Or does Roman come back before SummerSlam? Because that's the other question. When do you insert Roman back in? Because I think you don't bring Roman back in yet. However, they probably will because you have War Games in November. And to me, the way they're going is going to be War Games Bloodline. It's going to be Roman and the Usos versus Solo and his Bloodline. Now, you might want to say, well, it's usually a 5-on-5. I could see The Rock siding with Solo, but then who's going to be that fifth person? Do you slide Sammy in? Do you slide Cody in? Does now Cody work with Roman to take him down? I don't know. But then does it happen? Does Roman turn on Cody? Then we get Roman versus Cody 2 for the title, and Roman gets his win back. You see what I'm saying? The different avenues you can go with this? It's crazy. It's crazy. But for tonight, Solo and the new Bloodline need to win. They have to. I really think you kill the momentum if you have them lose. Because now you want to build this up for when you do get Bloodline versus Bloodline. Because you know that's what's going to happen. Jimmy's going to come back. They're going to suck Jay back in. It's going to happen. It will happen. And I'm sure there's another cousin out there somewhere that will probably join them because these guys got cousins coming out of the woodworks. Okay? So I don't think there'll be a problem getting a 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 or whatever. But I think you need to build up Solo's reign. But then you could also make it like, Roman comes back. You see, look, you lost this. You didn't win that because you're not ready. That's another avenue you could go. But I think for now, you need to keep them as strong as possible. And therefore, my pick is Solo winning by pitting Cody Rhodes. Now the 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches. This is very difficult to predict because there's a lot of viable people and a lot of people who make sense to win in this match. I'm going to start with the women. And this is probably going to be a controversial pick. But I can really see Chelsea Green winning this thing. And I'm sure some of you guys are going to be like, what? As ridiculous as it sounds, the way her character is, I can see her winning it by accident. If it's not her, it's going to be Tiffany. It's either Tiffany or Chelsea. I don't see it being Naomi. I don't see it being Laura Valkyrie, not Io Sky, and not Zoe Stark. It's Chelsea Green or Tiffany. But I'm leaning more towards Chelsea because I don't think people expect it. It's so out of the box. Chelsea is sort of the equivalent of having R-Truth in it. And I don't think you would expect R-Truth to win. But the way Chelsea's character is, yeah. Especially if Piper Niven helps her. Yeah. So my 2 picks is Chelsea or Tiffany, but I'm going with Chelsea Green first to win. The men's Money in the Bank. Very difficult because you have a case for Jey Uso to win. You have a case for LA Knight to win. And you have a case for Drew McIntyre to win. I don't see it being Carmelo Hayes too soon for him. I don't know. Andrade is like treading water right now, but putting that on him makes it even worse. So it ain't gonna be him. I know everybody wants it to be Chad Gable, but it looks like Chad Gable's gonna be wrapped up into this Wyatt Six thing. So that's why I'm scratching him. Now, I feel like WWE has missed the boat with both Jay and LA Knight. Neither one of them need to be world champion right now, but one should have been United States champion, and one should have been Intercontinental champion by now. Speaking of the United States, I hate that shit what they're doing with Logan Paul. That Prime logo and all that. I fucking hate that shit. WWE at this point is so above doing that. So above doing that. It is so beneath them. And I just think it's ridiculous. I fucking hate it. And I can't wait till that promotion is done. The stupid bottle that's, by ringside. The stupid logo and all. And I know it's only on SmackDown. And I think it's also the PLEs. But it's so cheesy. And I just hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But, LA Knight was hot. And yeah, some say you killed momentum, you had him lose to Roman, but that momentum should have carried into him winning the United States title. And he's on pace to do that because he's going to feud with Logan Paul, and I think he's going to be the one to take it off of Logan Paul. Jey Uso, again, I think they've killed his momentum quite a bit. They really should have pulled the trigger on him once he left the Bloodline. But I think if you have Jay win, it gets a little murky because, like I said, he's going to be involved in the Bloodline storyline. Now, yeah, could he still help his family while he's Mr. Money in the Bank? Sure, he can. Drew McIntyre does make sense for him to win. The question is, do you have him win and then have CM Punk cost him his cash-in? Or do you have CM Punk cost him winning the Money in the Bank ladder match, period? So you have three viable people. But I think it's going to come down to either Jay or Drew McIntyre. I think it's going to be one of those two. Because LA Knight is really mixed in with Logan Paul. And I can see Logan Paul costing LA Knight the championship. And I know LA Knight has been talking about getting the United States title. You know, he did the whole thing at Logan's house. They had the match to qualify for United States champ. But, you know, I think there's still some there with Logan and LA Knight. So that's why I don't see him winning Money in the Bank. Like I said, I don't see it being Carmelo. I don't see it being Andrade. That leaves you Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. I do think it hurts if you don't have Jay win because you've been pumping up Jay. He's been giving these promos. I think Jay needs to win this one. So Jay's going to be my first pick, but my backup is Drew McIntyre. I do think Drew wins if CM Punk doesn't get involved. So those are my picks. Damian Priest over Seth Rollins. Bron Breakker over Sami Zayn. The Bloodline over Cody, Randy, and Kevin. Money in the Bank women's match, Chelsea Green. If not Chelsea, then Tiffany. I'm taking two picks, but my number one pick is Chelsea. And for Money in the Bank, my first pick is Jey Uso, and if it's not Jay, it's Drew McIntyre. Honestly, I think it's better if Drew wins. So, I don't know which ladder match is going to start. But to me, here's how you know there won't be a cash-in attempt. Because there's no women's title match, right, on the card now. To me, here's how you know there won't be a cash-in. If the championship match for Damian and Seth happens before the men's ladder match, you know there's no cash-in. If the ladder match opens the show, if the men's... To me, a ladder match is opening the show. One's going to open and one's going to come close to close. I don't know if they're going to close out. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do Seth them last. But if the men's ladder match happens first and Drew wins, you know there's going to be a cash-in attempt. That's my prediction. There will be a cash-in attempt, and this is where CM Punk cost Drew McIntyre. He's going to cost him that. If the championship match happens first, there's no cash-in. I'll probably say that's an indication that Jay would win. That's my guess. So let's see which of those come to fruition. But that's my Money in the Bank preview. I got to go do some grilling right now. So hopefully you guys get a chance to listen to this before Money in the Bank. And I will be back with my reaction to Money in the Bank 2024. Thanks for listening, guys.